how are you? Thank you for watching my videos, and at the same time I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry if I hurt somebody, and this is not my intention to hurt somebody through my messages or anything. Whatever I went through, whatever I found in all my 30 years of working, that's what I'm presenting it to you. It's up to you to take it. It's up to you to go and research it on it, okay? So let us start today. I'm going to talk a little bit about, it's not an in-depth study, within 10 minutes I'm trying to give you some points. We are going to talk about grace, salvation, and the law. You know, who was the first Jewish apostle who was called to do the ministry in the Gentiles? Apostle Peter. What was his Jewish name? Was Kepha. What was the other name? Shimon. So he has a multiple name with one face. And who was the apostle who working with Gentile? Apostle Paul. So whenever Apostle Paul visited any new city, he first goes to the synagogue. But the first disciple from Apostle called to go to Gentile was Peter. So see, even though the Jewish guy going to Gentile, and Gentile from Gentile, one guy coming back to the Jewish congregation all the time. So the message is the same. They were not changing any inter-messages. People are thinking that there's a lot of interpretation on these messages. I just want to tell this one before I go to the message on this topic. So in those days, you know, it is very difficult to gather these Jewish people, because in Israel there's a saying that two Jewish people with the three opinions, because they always have differences of opinions. So it is not easy to gather the Jewish people. That's what you know, Jesus also one time it said we always misinterpret that, where two or three people are gathered together in my name, I'll be in the midst. Basically, in the Jewish perspective, it's totally different than the Gentile perspective. In the Jewish way to think of that word is that in Jewish time they needed at least three witnesses for anything, for everything. That's why it has been said two or three. So. But what we think is totally, in Gentiles, we think totally different, because if 2 or 3 people are there, if any congregation is too small, they say, brother, don't worry, when 2 or 3 people are there, Jesus is going to come out. But Jewish perspective is not that way. That's why I said that studying through the Word of God through the Hebrewic is totally opposite than studying through the Gentile version. Let's move on. So what I'm trying to tell you this one is, Jewish people have differences of opinions. It was very hard. When you think of it, 120 people gathered in one place with one accord, that itself a miracle. It was a diversified situation there. Jewish people have different type of Jewish people. The Sadducees, Pharisees, Hellenistic Jewish, and Zealots, and also Essenes. Different type of people over there in the Jewish community. And it was tough for the Messianic Jewish people to bring them all together. For example, if a Messianic Jewish guy is coming back, if he has come from in Sadducees, that he has to compromise with them, because Sadducees believed in the spiritual resurrection. Pharisees believed in bodily resurrection. If a Messianic Jewish guy, if he is from in that Sadducees group, he has to be a little more bent towards the Sadducees. Otherwise, he can't. So it was difficult for them to reach any type of point or definition to come to a conclusion. At the same time, they're also having struggled to bring these Gentile people to bring to their congregation. It was very, very tough. How come they can do this one? That's why on the day of Shavuot, people dispersed from all over the world, the Jewish people gathered on the day. And also followers of Jesus gathered on the day. So multiple type of different kind of Jewish people, and different with the thoughts processes going on there. It was tough in Jerusalem to be together. At the same time, in the olden days, we have read about the story of Babel. Babel, in the story, God disperses or diversifies all these people because they were talking in one language. Here, people were speaking in multiple language, but they were united with the one Holy Spirit. That's the main point that he was delivering, that diversified with one God's love. God was telling unity is not uniformity, unity in diversity. There is beauty in unity in diversity. That's the point that God is making. It's not the importance of the tongue speaking, because They were speaking tongues, but everybody could be able to understand. This is not the same thing. The same tongues what Paul was speaking in Corinthians. Corinthians, he talks about the different kinds of tongues. If you're speaking a prophetical tongue, it should be interpreted. If you're speaking in a personal prayer or anything worship, that's absolutely totally different. But when you come to public, when you're going to do tongue speaking, it must be interpreted. That's what Paul was repeatedly telling. There's a different type of things we'll get to know afterwards. So doctrines were created based on this. That's what I'm telling. Denominations are more deceptive when they make these things. I'm not attacking anybody, but I'm trying to tell you almost the exact things the way that I am sure. Okay, let's move on. What is the first commandment? First commandment is the love your God with everything, with your full heart. Heart is the main thing that which attaches everything. So if our heart is right, everything is right. If heart is not right, everything is out. So heart, full heart, that you have to love your God. And at the same time, Yeshua came in and he said what he said. He said that love your neighbor or love your other person the way I loved. That's very high level expectation of God. The way God loved us, we are expected to love the other people. That's why even in Jesus' group, there was diversified of people. Like there were fishermen, there were tax collectors, there were carpenters, there were tent makers, there were doctors. There are a lot of diversified group of that he had. He was teaching to his disciple that be generous to everybody. The salvation came to the disciple, to the Gentiles. It's not by the Paul's rule or anybody. It came through the God's rule, because he was giving everything to everybody. Everybody should be having everything. That's what he was talking about. So it is not the salvation is just came to somebody else. It came to God, but he used Jewish people as a tool. Okay, let's talk about this. How these people are struggling to reach this one. They were reaching, we were telling the English Bible was talking about the church. There is no name called church. There's no name called church in Greek. In Greek it's called ecclesia. Ecclesia means community of faith called out for God. Israel was called out from Egypt to worship God. So Israel is ecclesia. So basically what I'm saying is anything which is called, it's a community of faith. It's not a single group. It's a community of faith. The community should be diversified. Salvation to be extended to everybody, to all the Gentile people. Everyone. It's not only for Jewish people. It came first to Jewish and then it went into the Gentile. That's what the Bible talks about that one. But after this salvation happened, today Christianity people are talking about something. Oh, you know what, brother? New Testament is full of grace, and we don't obey or we don't observe any laws or anything. Laws are over on Old Testament. There's no more laws. That's it. It's all end. Jesus is the end of the laws. But actually, in the Jewish perspective, it is not the end of the law. Jesus is the ultimate goal of the law. That's what they interpret in that way. Jesus is not the end of the law. He is the ultimate goal of the law is Jesus Christ. So we interpret totally different. Their perspectives are totally different. That's what I wanted to know. Laws are there in the New Testament, and also grace is there in the Old Testament. So we cannot say there's no grace in Old Testament and there's no law in New Testament. I will tell you one thing. At the Garden of Eden, God said that you don't go and eat that fruit. If you go and eat the fruit, then you will be dying. Did Adam die? Did God let him die? No. Isn't it a grace on Adam that he let him go? And also when he left, he skinned him. He made a skin cloth for him and sent him out. Isn't it a grace on him? So grace started from the Garden of Eve to all the way to the throne. So there is full of grace in the Old Testament. About the laws in New Testament, read Apostle chapter 15. They were deciding how to handle this Gentile nation, how to handle the Gentile people. And there was differences of opinion. Some people say that you have to become a Jewish guy, you have to circumcise, then we can take it. Some people said, no, we cannot do that like that. So they were coming to there's something they talk about. They say that in Apostle 15th chapter, you read it, in that one they say that you should not be eating anything which is offered to the idols, and also you should not be eating any strangled animal or strangled blooded animal. So you should not basically eat anything with the blood. So isn't it a law? that they're talking about there? Don't eat with anything blood? Or isn't it a law they're talking about don't worship idol? So New Testament doesn't have a law. But at the same time, isn't it something that can you go and murder somebody? You should not murder, right? Since because it's not told in Apostle chapter 15, do you think that you can go and murder somebody? You cannot. So laws are still being in the New Testament period, and grace is also was there in the Old Testament. So denominations being separated by these things, they're teaching the different things. Sectarian people lived, but Jesus was a non-sectarian. He had everybody under him. He had everybody under his control. That's what he taught to his disciples. That's what they established. And the modern day denominations, if you go the high, most popular religious groups, they'll be having either only white people or only black people church or only, mixed people. This is all a lot of sectarians, a lot of denominations being like this. That's why I said that denominations are getting a deceptive, but the first century Messianic Jewish people are not that way. So I just wanted to make sure that you got this point. I'll come back with you with a different point next time. Until then, be safe. Signing off. Bye.